She moaned louder than ever. Her body moved like it never had before. You thought, "I'm finally enough." But you were wrong. Because in that exact moment, the moment you thought you were winning, she was mentally somewhere else. With someone else. And here's the truth no one wants to say out loud. If she suddenly asks for something new in bed, she didn't invent it. Someone gave it to her. You're not exploring, you're auditioning. And the worst part? You'll smile and give her what she wants, while she closes her eyes and remembers the man who actually made her feel something. Most men have slept with women who were never really there. Just flesh, no soul. But a Stoic man doesn't panic. He observes, he calculates, he decides. Because if she's comparing you in bed, it's already over. She just hasn't said it yet. Most men never notice when it starts. They think everything is fine, even better than before. She's more responsive, more creative, she's suggesting things now. But here's the twist. She's not growing closer to you. She's reaching for a feeling she once had. Trying to recreate it, not with you, but through you. That's the silent shift, a hidden comparison that happens behind closed eyes. Behind unspoken requests. You might think, she's just exploring. But stop and ask, why now? Why this? Why suddenly? Behavior doesn't change without cause. And in moments where connection should be at its most honest, imitation is the one thing no one expects. You believe it's passion, but sometimes passion is just memory in disguise. And the danger? You won't feel it. You'll enjoy the surface while missing the signal. She isn't cheating, but she isn't truly with you either. This is where many men sleep beside someone who has already emotionally left, and only the body stayed behind. The biggest red flag is the one you're most afraid to see, when something new feels exciting, but carries a shadow you didn't put there. What drives this? Why would someone mentally check out, yet still stay physically present? The answer lies in the way memory and emotion work, especially in women. And most men are completely blind to it. It's not random. When someone mentally checks out during moments that are supposed to be most real, there's always a reason, and it rarely has anything to do with you. The mind doesn't forget emotional intensity, especially not hers. Women tend to store emotional and sensory memory deeper than men. Not by choice, by design. Evolution gave them a radar that runs on feelings, not facts. And in that system, emotional memory becomes a reference point. If something in the present doesn't match the intensity of the past, the mind drifts, not always consciously, but consistently. That's why one specific moment, word, or movement can trigger a shift. You thought you were just trying something new, but she was chasing something familiar. That new request may not be new at all, just new to you. The mind replays what the heart hasn't released. And in a world where people rarely sit with their past, they often try to relive it through someone else. That someone might be you, which means you're not always building connection. Sometimes, you're unknowingly playing the role of a memory. And the more convincing you are, the more dangerous it gets, because you start to believe it's real. But is it? The Stoics warned us, what you can't see clearly will control you silently. So how would a man like Marcus Aurelius handle something like this? Not with anger, not with insecurity, but with something far more powerful. The average man reacts. The Stoic man reflects. Most would panic when they feel her drift. They search for answers. Demand reassurance. Or worse, try harder to impress. But the Stoics knew better. They understood a brutal but freeing truth. You are never entitled to someone else's inner world. Marcus Aurelius would not ask, "Why is she distant?" He would ask, "What does this reveal about attachment? About ego? About illusion?" In his Meditations, he wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." So when you sense she's no longer fully present, don't chase, don't accuse, simply observe, not coldly, but clearly. The Stoic does not need confirmation. He does not beg for truth, he watches until it reveals itself. And if it does, he does not collapse, he accepts. That's what separates power from performance. When you live through ego, you need to be chosen. When you live through principle, you choose whether to stay. The moment you need someone to prove they're not comparing you, you've already lost center. The Stoic doesn't fight for attention. He notices when it's gone, and moves accordingly, not out of pride, but out of alignment. Because clarity is not cruelty. It's freedom. But what exactly is she comparing you to? What memory is so powerful it overrides the present? To understand that, you need to understand something uncomfortable. The way female memory stores desire. And why the past may never really stay in the past. There's a concept most men ignore, not because it's wrong, but because it's uncomfortable. It's called hypergamy. Simply put, it's the subconscious drive to seek the best possible option, emotionally, physically, socially. For men, attraction is often in the now. For women, it's stored in patterns, and once a certain emotional or physical intensity is experienced, it doesn't just fade, it becomes a benchmark, a hidden ruler that silently measures everything that comes after. This is where memory becomes competition, not because she wants it to, but because biology doesn't care what's fair. It only cares what felt real. The mistake men make is thinking they're competing with her current standards. They're not. They're competing with her emotional history, with the imprint left by someone who, for whatever reason, made her feel something deep enough to stay etched in her nervous system. And this isn't just about status or looks. It's about presence, unpredictability, intensity, the kind that doesn't feel safe, but unforgettable. You might offer peace, but the body remembers chaos. You might offer consistency, but the heart recalls extremes. That's the paradox. She may want you, genuinely, and still be haunted by a connection that no longer exists. And if you're unaware of this, you'll misread everything. You'll think she's lost interest in you, when in reality, she's still chasing the ghost of someone else, sometimes without realizing it herself. Hypergamy doesn't mean she'll leave. It just means, deep down, she knows when something once made her feel more. And when that memory returns, you become the mirror it reflects against. The tragedy isn't that she remembers. It's that most men never realize they're being compared until it's too late. They mistake silence for satisfaction, and routine for trust. But trust without presence is just polite distance. The signs were there, you just didn't want to see them. Not because you're naive, but because you're hopeful. And hope, when left unchecked, becomes the most dangerous illusion a man can have. Most men ignore emotional distance because they confuse performance with connection. She laughs, she responds, she stays, so everything must be fine, right? Not quite. Most men were trained, silently and culturally, to believe that presence equals loyalty, and intimacy equals love, but presence without attention is just convenience, and connection without depth is just habit. Still, men lie to themselves. They say things like, she's probably just tired, or, she's been stressed lately, or the worst one, maybe if I do more, she'll come back emotionally. But Stoicism doesn't live in fantasy. It lives in what is. And what is, for many men, is this. You are working to impress someone who already made up their mind, silently. Months ago, you're trying to spark something that faded the moment she started comparing what she feels with what she once felt. The problem isn't that she's dishonest. The problem is that most men are unwilling to look at truth without flinching. They avoid hard questions like, why is her energy different now? Why does she seem present, but distant? Why do I feel like I'm performing, not connecting? The moment you start asking those questions, you wake up. But until then, you'll stay stuck, not because she's manipulative, but because you chose comfort over clarity. And clarity always has a cost, your illusions. But what if you could decode it? What if every subtle behavior during those quiet moments had meaning, and you could read it? Because truth doesn't always speak. Sometimes, it moves. The truth doesn't always arrive in words. Sometimes, it shows up in pauses, in timing, in the way someone touches but doesn't connect. Presence can be mimicked, and performance, when done well, feels real, until you look closely. You start noticing strange patterns. Moments that feel rehearsed. Emotions that feel just slightly out of sync. There's laughter, but no warmth. Eye contact, but no depth. And during intimacy, it's even more subtle. A new request you've never heard before, oddly specific. Almost scripted. A phrase that doesn't sound like her. Movements that feel borrowed. And when it's over, there's distance, as if something was just completed, not shared. These aren't accidents. They're signs of internal disconnection. Not always malicious, but always revealing. She might not even know she's doing it. Because when people are emotionally elsewhere, The body still goes through the motions. The mind simply fills in the rest. And if she's chasing a memory, then every moment with you becomes a silent audition to replicate it. She's not building something new, she's reenacting something familiar. And you're unknowingly playing a part in someone else's story. This is the hidden language of performance, consistent effort without emotional return. Mechanical closeness, emotional autopilot, and the worst part? It still feels real, until it doesn't. That's why men stay for so long. Because when something is just believable enough, the mind wants to protect the illusion. You tell yourself she's just tired, just distracted, just busy, but deep down, you feel it in the small delays. The neutral tone, the way she touches you like she's checking a box. That's not rejection, that's resignation. She's present, but not available. She's trying, but not feeling. And once you recognize the performance, you'll never unsee it again. So now the question shifts, not from, is she comparing me, to, what do I do if she is? Because once you see the mask, the only move left is to respond without losing yourself. When most men feel the shift, they react, they ask more questions, demand more affection, or try harder, all in the name of saving something that's already fading. But the Stoic doesn't react. He reads. He observes behavior like a strategist reads a battlefield, not to panic, but to prepare. The first rule of Stoic response: do not confront from emotion. When you sense comparison, don't beg for reassurance. Don't try to outdo the ghost. That's how you lose power and self-respect. Instead, go silent, not as punishment, but as calibration. Watch what she does when you stop performing. Does her warmth drop when your effort drops? Does she only move when you initiate? Does she notice your emotional withdrawal, or pretend not to? This isn't a game. It's data. You're not testing her. You're observing reality. Because the Stoic knows that energy is not requested. It's revealed. Second, detach your worth from her response. Most men spiral because they tie their value to how she feels about them. But how someone sees you is a reflection of them, not you. The Stoic doesn't beg to be seen. He sharpens his vision. Third, be willing to walk. Not in anger, not in threat, but in clarity. If her presence feels like performance, and her affection feels transactional, you don't fix it, you outgrow it. Silence, withdrawal, and non-resistance are your tools. Not ghosting, not manipulation, but alignment. A man anchored in himself doesn't need to convince anyone to stay. He creates such clarity that those who are drifting feel the weight of their own confusion. And in that stillness, one of two things happens. She reconnects genuinely, or reveals that she never fully could. Either outcome is a gift. The Stoic wins not by controlling others, but by mastering himself. And once you reach that level of calm, no comparison can shake you, because you're not trying to be better than someone else. You're simply done performing for someone who's not truly present but before you walk or stay. There's one more thing you need to understand. The world she lives in may be setting her up to compare constantly. And you may be competing without knowing the rules. You think you're building a connection. You think it's just the two of you. But in today's world, it never is. You're not just competing with her past. You're competing with her feed. With the curated illusions of perfect moments, filtered lives, and endless options. Modern dating isn't about presence, it's about positioning. And most don't even know they're being ranked. Every interaction becomes data. Every silence becomes a signal. The algorithm trains attention spans to shorten, expectations to rise, and patience to vanish. She might be with you, but mentally still orbiting profiles, memories, or what-if fantasies that never had to be tested by reality. You're not just a person. You're a comparison point in a never-ending scroll. And if you don't realize this, you'll take every shift personally. You'll think, what did I do wrong? When the truth is, she's responding to an ecosystem of invisible pressures. Validation is now a currency, and many trade it without knowing. So even if you're consistent, grounded, present, you might still be measured against moments that weren't real to begin with. The weekend getaway she saw on Instagram. The viral quote that made her doubt your ambition. The memory of someone who made her feel chaos, but never stability. In this system, depth is rare, constant evaluation is normal, and comparison is not a glitch, it's the default setting. The question is not whether you're being measured, You are. The real question is, are you aware enough to see it without taking it personally? The Stoic man doesn't fight the game. He steps outside it. He knows attention is temporary. But presence, true, grounded presence, creates a contrast so sharp that even the most distracted mind remembers it. You can't control the world she's immersed in, but you can become the exception she didn't expect to find. And that begins when you stop playing to win her over and start standing so firm that comparison becomes pointless. But sometimes, no matter how aware you are, the signs confirm what you've quietly feared. And when they do, you're left with only one decision, not whether to feel, but whether to stay. Detachment is not coldness. It's clarity without desperation. Most men confuse leaving with loss, but the Stoic knows. To leave something that no longer holds truth is not failure. It's alignment. You don't walk away to hurt her. You walk away to protect the part of you that still believes in honesty. Because once you've seen the comparison, once you've felt that her presence is no longer fully hers, staying becomes a slow betrayal of yourself. And nothing drains a man faster than staying in a place where he's tolerated, not chosen. The weak man demands closure. The strong man becomes it. He doesn't announce his exit. He simply stops fighting for attention that's already been redirected. And in that stillness, in that silence, something powerful happens. You stop needing validation. You stop trying to prove you're enough. Because you realize you always were, just not in the story she was still replaying. Walking away is not about being right. It's about being free. Free from performing. Free from silent comparison. Free from measuring yourself against someone else's ghosts. The moment you detach is the moment you take your power back. And power, in its truest form, is not loud. It's quiet conviction. It's being able to look at someone you once wanted and say, I see what's happening, and I choose myself. That's not bitterness. That's balance. You don't punish her. You don't chase her. You simply stop making her behavior your responsibility. Because a man who's anchored in himself doesn't fear being alone. He fears living a lie. And if the connection isn't real anymore, not deeply, not truly, then walking away isn't loss. It's returning home, to peace, to strength, to truth. The Stoics knew this long before modern dating ever existed. You cannot lose what was never fully present, but you can lose yourself trying to hold onto it. So don't. In the end, clarity is cruel only to illusion. And sometimes, the most masculine thing a man can do is nothing but walk. If you've made it this far, you already know this wasn't just about her. It was about you, about the version of you that's finally done pretending not to notice. About the man who chooses clarity over comfort, awareness over attachment. Most will never reach that point. They'll keep chasing signals, negotiating their worth through reactions, mistaking noise for connection. But not you, not anymore, because now you understand the deeper game, not the surface story, but the pattern beneath it. And that awareness, once gained, cannot be undone. You no longer need to decode every word. You no longer ask, why is she distant? Instead, you ask, what does my energy allow into my life? That's power. And from here on, you protect it. No bitterness, no blame, just standards, silent, immovable, and rooted in truth. Because when you no longer fear being left, you stop tolerating half-love. You stop trying to be someone else's better option and start becoming your own final answer. So here's your next move. Don't chase. Don't test. Don't fix. Just observe. Watch energy, not words. Watch patterns, not promises. And above all, watch yourself. Because when your awareness sharpens, your reality shifts. And when your reality shifts, the right people stop comparing. They start choosing. Quietly, fully, and without hesitation. If this spoke to something real in you, subscribe. Stay sharp. Stay grounded. And never perform to be loved. Be so centered that presence is your only language, and those who don't speak it, walk out on their own. If someone is able to show me that what I think or do is not right, I will gladly change, for I seek the truth, by which no one was ever truly harmed. Marcus Aurelius.